This is Annie Andrews with The Arena, South Carolina's only progressive media company. I'm joined today by Antjuan Seawright, a Democratic political strategist, CEO and founder of Blueprint Strategy, a CBS political contributor, and a senior visiting fellow at Third Way. Good morning, Antjuan. Thanks for being here.
Good morning, Dr. Andrews, and thank you for having me. And certainly, so grateful for the work that you do all across this country for the next generation. But really and truthfully, it's for this generation because the work now will impact future generations in this country. So I'm thankful for you and your leadership.
Well, thank you for saying that. So I wanted to talk to you this weekend because we're all talking about the debate on Thursday. And I watched the debate and then I watched clips from the rally. So help those of us, who aren't really on the inside understand, how do we reconcile what we saw on the debate stage and some of those great clips we saw out of the rally on Friday?
Well, let's just deal with the obvious. The president, our candidate, did not have the best night, but he certainly did not have the worst night. And so I think there's balance there. At the end of the day, people decide elections, not debates, and certainly not a debate stage in June. If you do the honest comparison, you have a candidate who certainly has proven his net worth and the strength of his network by being president for 4 years and what he's done to rescue this economy, what he's done from a legislative standpoint. Perhaps one of the most accomplished presidents in the history of this country. And you compare that to the liar in chief, who was on full display with that strategy on the debate stage just the other night. Most people would agree, reasonable people would agree, that most of the things you heard from the former president had no relationship with the truth. And truth be told, the former president has proven he has no interest in having a relationship with the truth. And so at the end of the day, when the fact checkers check the facts, I think Joe Biden won that argument. When it comes to the money conversation, Joe Biden won that argument. When it comes to how independent thinkers viewed the debate and where they're going to spend their time and their votes, Joe Biden won that argument. And so there's this conversation inside the bubble that may be disconnected. I call it the K Street conversation versus the My Street conversation. And we know that voters decide elections on My Street and people have their chatter on K Street.
Okay. So, some of the issues that I'm so passionate about, and I saw a couple big missed opportunities specifically on abortion and childcare. And I feel like for voters like me, we really need to get a tightened message around those two issues. So what did you see on those issues? I know he's great on those issues, but how do we get that message out to the voters?
Well, first of all, I agree with you. I think the president missed a few incredible opportunities to lean in where his strength lies, where the voters are, where he's been on the right side of the issues, where he's been on the right side of history, whether it's reproductive freedom and the fact that he believes that a woman should be trusted to make her own healthcare decisions, and those decisions remain between her and her doctor. I think he missed a tremendous opportunity to own the space when it comes to the African American community, perhaps the most consequential president when it comes to me and my community than any other president to ever serve this country. I think he missed a tremendous opportunity to push back on the lies and the misinformation that came from the former president about some of the issues that face us and have been facing us for the past few generations. And so I would agree with that concept, but I would also remind you that before the debate, the president's campaign has been framing the issues in a true contrast way. During the campaign, the president's campaign were framing the issues in a contrast way. Post this campaign, you will see the president, his allies and partners, including the vice president, frame the narrative and make the comparison about this campaign and what's at stake. And so I would not do the necessary political pause because of what happened on the debate stage. It's almost like those of us who worship on Sunday mornings. I believe that real church happens when you leave worship service on Sunday morning. And I feel the same way about politics and particularly debate. The real work happens when you leave the debate stage. And what you saw in North Carolina, I think, was a snapshot of what is to come when it comes to this race and how the world should view this president.
Yeah, and he certainly has a deep roster of incredible surrogates who can help him on the campaign trail. I've been thinking a lot about the difference of the job of president and the job of campaigning for president. And as a voter, I'm much more interested in someone who can do the job of president. And like you said, his record speaks for itself. So hopefully he can lean
But
in on that.
but
And
yeah, but Dr. Andrews, I would just say to you, it takes both things to work in this country. You have to be a great candidate, and you have to be an even better president. I think what Joe Biden has proven on one end, at least in the 2020 election, he's a great candidate. He's proven, I think, in the past 4 years being in the White House, he's a hell of a president. I think he has to rinse and repeat both of those things for the American people to demonstrate his strength. As relates to messengers for the message, most people would agree that it takes a village to keep a president. It takes a village to win an election. And so I think we have to tap in, as the younger generation would say. I say we have to dial in. We have some incredible talent on the bench in our party, but also in local communities all across this country. We have people who benefited from the Biden presidency, and whether they admit it or not, and whether they say it out loud or not, there's not a person in this country who has not benefited directly or indirectly from these past 4 years of this president, this vice president, and when we had a Democratic-led Congress in the House and the Senate.
so, will Thursday night impact November? It's June, as you said.
Not at all. And I would say to my friends in the Democratic ecosystem and other spaces, chill the hell out. The fact of the matter is, there are a number of people who are tuning in, but that does not mean they're paying attention. Those are two different things. There are a number of people who understand that this process is a marathon, not a sprint. And for those of us on the Democratic side, direction is more important than speed. We will continue to build this plane as we fly. As we say in the yoga world, we'll continue to make adjustments as we need it, but we'd also welcome other voices and other folks to the conversation, because there's so much at stake in this election. And not just the presidency will be on the ballot, decency will be on the ballot. Hakeem Jeffries being the first black speaker of these United States will be on the ballot. The first woman serving as majority leader in the House of Representatives, and Catherine Clark, will be on the ballot. The first Latino, and Pete Aguilar being the majority whip in the United States Congress, will be on the ballot. The first African American assistant speaker, Joe Neguse, will be on the ballot. Reproductive freedom will be on the ballot. All the things we care about, including fundamental freedoms as we know it, the basic ones that most of us, especially in my community, have been recently able to unlock, will be on the ballot.
Well said. Yes. Everything is at stake. There's so much on the ballot. And
Including the issue that you're so passionate about, guns
that's right.
and gun
That's right.
reform will be on the ballot.
That's right. And we,
And thankfully, because we had a president and because we had a Congress who had the guts and are still aspiring to pass perhaps one of the most consequential pieces of legislation in the past 30 years. In fact, the first piece of major gun reform legislation in 30 years, we see violent crime down all across this country. So elections have consequences. The people will determine whether or not those consequences are either for us or against us.
that's right. Yes. It will break my heart to see the White House Office of Gun Violence Prevention disappear if we don't hold the White House. Everything is at stake. Everything is on the ballot.
And
So,
Dr. Andrews, can I just remind the American people who are listening to this program, we saw in 2016 what happens when we do not vote in our own best interests. We saw what happened when some people describe what they put down as a protest ballot. We saw what happened when people said they were looking for an additional option. Some voted third party, some did not vote at all. Some did this test drive notion of voting for the most unqualified person to run for the office. And forget about Trump's disastrous term for 4 years in the White House. Think about the next 50 to 60 to 70 years in this country with this right-wing activist extremist court who has ruled on the wrong side of history time and time again. Very likely, the next president will make one, maybe even two, appointments to the nation's highest court. That person will serve for a lifetime on that bench. We cannot afford in this country, considering the stakes, considering the issues, considering the generational neglect in some places, and considering the fact there's a party in this country and a group of people who want to take us full steam backwards. We cannot afford to miss the mark on this election. And so you don't have to love Joe Biden, but you have to like your community and like your country enough to cast your vote in your best interest in this election.
Well said. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time this morning, Antjuan, and thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much, and I look forward to being back.
All right.